Daniel opened the curtain just wide enough to see her. She stood perfectly still under the yellow light of the motel sign. She looked like anyone else, except her feet remained several inches above the pavement, her mouth beginning to stretch into an impossible, jagged smile. This was 34-year-old Daniel Mercer. He wasn't looking for Greyhollow. He was driving a remote mountain highway in the rain when his GPS signal dropped out, followed immediately by his cellular connection. The reflective signs marking the route vanished. The asphalt beneath his tires gave way to rough gravel, and the forest seemed to press closer against the sides of his car. When he turned the car around to find the main road, he drove for 40 minutes without seeing a single intersection. Instead, he found himself staring at the same wooden sign he had passed nearly an hour ago. "Welcome to Greyhollow." He drove for hours. Every road, every turn, every direction returned him to the same town. The moment he entered the town limits, the rain stopped. He was met with distant church bells and the sight of residents standing on their porches, watching his car pass in total silence. When Daniel asked a local woman for directions, she only asked him for the time. When he said it was 7:12 p.m., she backed away. Within minutes, the streets were empty, and the sound of deadbolts sliding home echoed from every house. The owner of the local motel, the Night Owl, hurried Daniel into a room. He offered no explanations, only a single instruction: do not open the door after the church bell rings 9 times. As the sun set, Greyhollow became a vacuum of sound. No cars, no insects, and no voices. Daniel sat in the dark, watching the minute hand on his watch approach the hour. The town lives under a mechanical curfew. The residents aren't just sleeping, they are observing a collective protocol of silence to avoid attracting something that only emerges after dark. At 9 p.m., the 9th bell rang. A few seconds later, Daniel heard the sound of bare feet moving slowly across the wooden slats of the motel porch. They stopped directly outside his room. Then came the voice of his mother. She had died 6 years earlier, but the voice outside the door matched her tone and cadence perfectly, begging him to let her in because she was cold. Daniel didn't answer. He climbed out the bathroom window and pulled himself onto the roof, desperate to put distance between himself and the hallway. From this vantage point, we can see the fog wall that keeps Greyhollow isolated, but notice the lights deep within the mist. There are hundreds of them, flickering in the distance like windows in other towns, trapped in their own pockets of the fog. He was joined on the roof by a boy named Samuel, who had been in the town for longer than he could remember. Samuel described the hollow, entities that imitate the living, slowly consuming a person's memories until there is nothing left but a shell. Greyhollow functions as a collection point. It draws people in and harvests their identities, turning new arrivals into the very guards that keep the town's secrets from reaching the outside world. Seeking answers, Daniel broke into the town library. He began searching through the archives, looking for any record of how the town began. He found a newspaper from October 1946. It detailed a landslide that had cut off the mountain road, leaving 318 residents stranded. They were never heard from again. In the back of the library, he found the town's guest book, a handwritten ledger of every person who had arrived in Greyhollow since the road disappeared. On a page dated 1946, we see this entry. The name Daniel Mercer is written in fading ink, listed as an arrival 8 decades before Daniel was born. The town didn't catch Daniel by accident. The ledger suggests that his arrival was a recorded event nearly a century in the making. The church bells began to ring without stopping. Outside, the people of Greyhollow abandoned their homes, their faces losing all expression as they began to converge on the library. Samuel led Daniel toward the church. They went inside and found a hidden staircase that descended hundreds of feet through the bedrock, far below the foundation of the town. The walls of the underground chamber were carved with thousands of names. It was a record of every victim the town had claimed, organized by the year they were taken. On this stone table sits a book containing an illustration of the original 318 residents. They are shown standing behind a man who faces a massive wooden door. The text describes how they chose to stay behind to ensure the door remained shut. The 318 residents didn't just disappear, they became the lock. They allowed themselves to be changed into the hollow so they could stand watch over this doorway for eternity. At the end of the hall stood the door from the illustration. It was made of ancient timber and marked with a circle split by a single vertical line. As the door creaked open, Daniel saw the interior of his own childhood home. His mother was there, looking exactly as she did before she got sick, smiling and asking him to come inside. Daniel looked back at the ledger and the names on the wall. He realized his presence here was the conclusion the town had been waiting for. He pushed Samuel away and stepped through the threshold. The door didn't lead to his past. He found himself back on the rainy highway, watching a car pull over. As the window rolls down, we see an older version of Daniel staring back, witnessing the moment he first arrived. Back in the valley, the church bells finally stopped. For the first time in 80 years, the sun rose. But it wasn't the sun Daniel knew. This pulsating green light began to bleed out from the forest, flooding the town. Greyhollow wasn't trying to keep Daniel trapped inside its walls. It was a waiting room. The town held its breath for 80 years just to ensure that when finally opened, he would be the one to let whatever was on the other side out.